Hi, good crowd. So I want to talk about what we believe is a good methodology for creating really great mobile casino and lottery games, and also where we see this going. I could be wrong, but you never know. So let me see if we can kick that off. So how to create a great game. So my background, I've actually been in the video game industry so long it defies description. This title that's on the screen shipped on cassette tape in 1980 that I did, so that's a long time. I've worked in mobile for a long time as well as a lot of people I've worked with at my company. I'm the Chief Creative Officer. We have a really excellent Chief Technology Officer who actually worked in online gaming in the 1990s. That's why we're in online gaming, because we had an expert in it and some other reasons I'll talk about. A couple things. The company itself, founded in 2010. We've done real money games in the App Store with the United Kingdom, and they're approved by Apple, which is amazing. How did we get here in gaming? So I want to talk about where we're at in terms of free-to-play. From 1982 to 2012, it's interesting, the game themes are very similar. These two games are actually the same game, except one is written for a really low-powered computer and the other one's written for the iPhone. You know, basically we went from computer screens to touch screens, and mobile itself evolved. Hope I'm not skipping any slides here. The App Store is really the big event that I've seen in the last 10 years, 15 years in the game industry. There was this big barrier to entry that basically kept the game industry elitist in a sort of interesting way, but now anyone can do it, and the result of that is a complete erosion in value and free-to-play. This is the box for the game, 1982 game, and you can see that the game itself is selling for $30, and it's a what is it, a 16 kilobyte game? So things have really devolved. If you take inflation to that, it's even worse. We ship megabytes, we hope 3% pay. You know, there's no barrier to entry now. There used to be a huge barrier to entry when you were doing cartridges. I'm going through this fast because this is really just background. This is the chart that scared us and basically got us to pivot out of doing free-to-play to real money. This is a cost per install versus the average revenue per user. And by average revenue per user, we mean anyone who plays the game. There's a lot of things where people change the metrics on you when they talk to you. What I'm talking about here is how much did you pay to get anyone to play the game, how much are you making from those anyones. And basically in free-to-play, you're making $2.50 from the players, and you're spending more than that. This is being driven by companies that are basically more interested in gaining a lot of users for different purposes. Maybe they're going to go public, maybe they're going to be acquired. The thing about real money, though, real money is not easy, and that's good. The fact that real money isn't easy is very good. There's lots of barriers to entry. There's a certain architecture, there's audit trail, security, licensing. Everything is seriously different. You cannot guarantee connectivity on mobile devices. Things have improved since the 15 years ago, but mobile is still tough. And the rule of thumb here is you can never lose a player's money. You can never lose a player's money. You're not building an app, though. This is if I had someone ask me, what did you learn the last 6 months of doing real money gaming in the United Kingdom? The biggest thing I've learned is that you're not building an app, you're building a casino. You have to have all the components of a casino, the loyalty programs. You need to be continually innovating. You can't just launch a game and hope that a miracle occurs. So anyone recognize that picture? Do you recognize the picture? Someone does, good. So loyalty programs, you have to do it, casinos do it too, and that means awarding players who play with bonuses and spiffs and all sorts of nice things. Here's the biggest takeaway for the entire presentation. I've said this before, and once again I stand by it. When you do an app on a mobile device, even if it's a real money app, you're not competing against just real money games, you're competing against every single app on that device, because that player's time is limited, and they're going to be comparing you against the standard they're used to in quality of product. Mobile apps also have an interesting thing. They have to basically seize the minute, as this little picture illustrates. You have to be able to get into the game very fast. This is one of the problems with some of the platforms, in that you wait forever for the game to load. Well, someone's in a line at a bank and they want to spin a slots game. They're not going to have that time to wait for a load. So let's talk about design basics quickly as well, because we don't have much time. What are the elements that make great games? Game mechanic is a set of rules. It's not themed. As you can see here are two different lottery games. They're the same game, but the game mechanic is the bingo game, but the actual presentation in UI is different. There's good backstories here. I give the example of Angry Birds and the example of Tiny Wings, which is one of the greatest games ever made. User interface. One of the things that's interesting is how things actually tend to evolve to standards. So these two cars are separated by 50 years, and yet they're familiar and you know how they work. Touchscreen interfaces, they've actually, multi-touch interfaces have really become pretty much the norm, and people expect certain things to work a certain way. You should study what's going on the best and emulate that. You gotta make simple stuff simple, communicate well. You need to have all the options. This is a poker game we did a while back, and have every option available to the player. It's a little bit complicated, but it was an iPad app. And you need to tell the users what's going on in the product. So one of the hardest things on devices, particularly iPhone and Android, is this sort of iPhone-ness. It's hard to describe, but I know it when I see it. Does the app actually feel like it belongs? If you take desktop apps and just move them over, people can sense that. People know it when they see it. So let's talk about some case studies. Tiny Wings is a great example. It's not a casino game, but here's a game that has one interface. Tap the screen, that's it. You tap the screen, the bird falls, that's it. Very simple, very clean, beautiful title, beautiful music, perfectly executed. Here's an example that isn't so perfect. Oregon has a lottery that has machines in restaurants and bars, completely, utterly untested as far as I'm concerned. I challenge anyone to go there and try to play the slots game. Just try to put $2 in or whatever the money is and try to play the slots game. You'll never be able to get to it. No one ever did any user testing on this product. I'm jumping really ahead here. So here's some typical decisions, and this is where I'm going to be controversial. You have a lot of choices here. Hardware platforms, the gaming server system is a big one as well. So let's talk about that. Right now, Apple does approve real money games. Google does not. There's a lot of reasons for that, and it might change. So what some companies are doing is they're saying, okay, well, we'll just do HTML5. We'll put it out there for both devices. We'll make it work as well as we can. And I was at the ICE show in London last week, and you could walk the floor and just see the problem with that. It was that it's hard to execute well on a lot of platforms, and the load times are just terrible. You just sit there trying to get to a game. You know, you've got 50, maybe 100 megabytes of assets in a very large game. You know, a high-resolution iPad bingo game or roulette game or blackjack game has a lot of graphics, takes a long time to load. Just not a very pleasant experience. There's special requirements for the lottery itself. You cannot do things on the device, random number generation on the device. You can't really do anything on the device relates to the gaming results. The results have to be calculated on a server. The device itself is doing the presentation of the interface, but if you don't do that, you're going to be violating a license. And finally, the biggest decision is what are you going to do on the server side? Now, history here is that Sherry Quano was our chief technical officer. Sherry and I founded a company in 2006 that PlayScreen acquired in 2010. And she had worked on something called World Wide Web Casinos in the 90s. So we full well knew how to build the server-side components. She had actually done it in an era of dial-up internet connections in AOL. We opted not to do that. We went with Bettable because focus is an important thing. And what we wanted to focus on was the player experience and the games themselves, and not focus on the payment systems, the security, the audit trails, and so on, all of which are necessary. So that's our suggestion. You could build your own server systems as well. It's up to you. Partnering is a good idea. So I'm going to be showing demos shortly, and I'm way ahead of myself because I didn't think it would go so fast. But, you know, we have to address these gamers' expectations, and we have to address the unique requirements for lottery games and mobile games. Now, let's talk about what's going on in casino games and in lottery games and so on. People have alluded to this. One, you have an aging demographic. In both casino games and particularly in lottery games. The typical lottery game is either a draw, which could be monthly or weekly, where you simply pick numbers and you win, or it could be scratch-off. But some of the lotteries that are even innovative, they have bingo-like scratch-offs and so on. But that demographic is rapidly aging, and in some cases, lottery revenue is down in some countries. I'm mostly interested in Europe because it's going to take some time for the American lotteries to be innovated. And some of the lotteries have tried interesting things. For example, in Eastern Canada, one person tried to do a geo-lottery where they had a lottery tied to geographic locations. And it was a beautiful effort, but it failed, and it failed in very interesting and spectacular ways. One reason it failed was they couldn't iterate. They were literally locked into a deal with a vendor where it would cost $500,000 to change the product before, to make a revision in the product. They basically boxed themselves into a corner and painted themselves in the corner. Any metaphor you want to choose, they did it. It's a great concept. The other lottery that's very innovative is Finland, and what Finland basically inspired us to do was to look at games and try to apply the mechanics that people loved in other games to those traditional games. We are constrained to be truly random and not be a skill-based game because skill-based games have their own rules, and the gaming commissions want to be pure chance games with verifiable return to player and odds and all that. So we had to come up with that as well. So what's probably going to happen is the lotteries will evolve to do mobile. If you look at the statistics on online gaming, mobile is the biggest growing segment, and by 2016 or 17, it's mostly going to be mobile, not PC-based online gaming, just the way it is. It's just happening, and I think Google will eventually change their mind. The reasons for the Google Play situation have more to do with Google's infrastructure and how they're set up. They can't do a store just for the UK. They can't, they don't really test the apps. Apple does scrutinize real money apps very carefully, and to be very clear about this, when you do a real money app with Apple, you cannot use Apple payments. So anything you've heard about how great Apple payments are, it does not pertain to real money gaming. So let me give you a tour of what we're up to. So let me turn this down so it's not so loud. So about 6 months ago, we did slots. And this is just traditional slots. The thing that's different now between the slots game we had and one we have now is that what we discovered is that the iPad is a better platform. Now, well, we knew it was better technically, but we've discovered the iPad versus the iPhone is where the money is being made. This is an interesting change from, let's say, social gaming. And it was Paddy Power and a couple other sports gambling people in the UK that alerted us to this, that basically they're seeing more revenue from the iPad. So in this case, what we've done in the slots is we basically have built a universal version for the new product that's coming out shortly. What we also did here is we basically went wild on the themes because we wanted to have an even demographic. And this product, the slots product that was out for quite some time, has basically split 50-50 on the demographic, men and women. And age-wise, there are a lot of 18 to 25-year-olds playing it, and there are a lot of older people as well. It's very flat because you have things like Lucky Ride, which is a very car-like, guy thing. So we have some free spins waiting and pay them off and all that. And this is communicating to a server. And so we have so I have one free spin. I can go back and play a different game. Like this one is more cutie. Slots is slots, no doubt about that. There are bonus games in here as well, where you basically click on items and so on. So that's nothing new. What's new is this whole product is now Casino Cash, and as of 7:52 this morning, Apple approved it. So let's go and see the rest of it. Scratch cards is something we've wanted to do for quite some time because we understand that in the world of lotteries, they're very popular, so we figured that would apply to casino games. And this was pretty much a leap of faith because we don't know how well they're going to do in the UK mobile casino market because there aren't many examples of that. Once again, we also try to be aware of the culture, so we have, in this case, a footy or football, as in European football, scratch card. So you just buy a scratch card and you do exactly what you'd expect of a scratch card, which is to scratch it. And it's not a very complicated mechanic, but it's popular. and we hope that it does really well. We have other scratch cards, of course, but the big innovation here, I think, is bingo. Now, one of these bingo games is not yet completed, but the bingo pop and the footy are, so I'll just show bingo pop first. And the idea here was bingo has a certain set of rules and so on, but we wanted to do a game that had a feel of interactivity into it. And I don't know about you, but I love popping bubble wrap. So the idea behind this was to have popping balloons. And you can pop them manually, you can tap on them individually, or you can do a speed play and just have them pop. We're trying to do innovative things here with bingo that haven't been done before. And once again, this is a universal app, and it will run on both the iPhone and the iPad, but it has full iPad resolution. And as you can see, as I get bingo, I can see the bingos. I can also navigate to different cards. So it tries very hard to be, notice it supports a swipe as well, so I don't have to just, I can actually swipe between them. And it shows my winnings and all that. We, of course, have to appeal to a different demographic, we have the football one, which is a little obnoxious, I have to admit. Because what you do is you're basically trying to score goals and so on. When you miss, it's because you don't have a number. And you can just basically speed play that. But we also understand that people are impatient. They may not want to do that. So we have a way you can just simply do that and get your winnings and be done. The one that will be out in a few weeks is this one. We had to change the name because of a certain company that will go unnamed that went on a crazy legal spree on a word in the English language. And this one is basically a pretty ambitious bingo game because it's doing what people have talked about, which is to bring real game mechanics into a game of chance. So what you're doing here is you're trying to find the patterns and the numbers flowing and all that, and it's exactly what you think it is. So what's the next one? So it basically here is because it's a game of chance and has to be a game of chance to be approved, you can't have elements of skill in that, but you can basically give people a feel and a touch that they currently love and enjoy and make that part of the game. And that will be our theme for the next year, is to do more and more innovative games like this. But I'm going to try to open this up to questions for quite a bit because I think everyone wants to know more about the Real Money Gaming outfit and stuff. So there we go, getting some bingos. I can also just have it do it for me if I want to. And then I get my results. So I would say, once again, the big takeaway here is that I believe when we're doing these type of real money games that we have to match the quality of experience of the best games, period, on the platform. And if we do Android games, I hope we can do them native. Otherwise, we'll do the best job we can, but we're going to make sure this product never suffers because of that. So I'm open to questions.
Thank you. Who has questions? Name, company, and question, please.
It's Carl from Aruga, and the question, we looked at Bettable to take our content to real money.
Yeah.
And at the time anyway, it's very restrictive on what you could and couldn't do in terms of game features. And also I was a bit concerned about like the customer relationship being, the billing relationship being owned by Bettable rather than us. Did you have any thoughts when you
we actually communicate with the users ourselves every day. Yes, Bettable does the billing and all that. And like I said, we had someone in the company, our chief technical officer, had actually done a full online gambling system. We could have done it ourselves, but it was a question of speed to the market. We pivoted an entire company that had millions of dollars of investment in social gaming to real money gaming. We just made the decision that, this is getting crazy, and we need to be in a marketplace where we can actually bring users in for less than their lifetime value. And so we went with Bettable for the point of having a company that was already approved and licensed in multiple territories and have a good billing system. But we own the customer relationship. These are play screen games in the store. Play screen is the brand. The messages that come to users are play screen messages, daily messages, bonuses, promotions and stuff. Bettable provides a very good platform that we exploit, but we do the actual messaging ourselves with our messages and everything else. We control the entire marketing message. We also did an extensive campaign. Let me see if I can find it. No, that's not it. With video ads, but I can't show those right now, unfortunately, where we did our own advertising, creative and stuff. We have a video ad with a commercial for the UK market and all that. I'd have to actually turn off the machine and turn it on again to bring that up. So, yeah, we're actually happy with Bettable. We think that was the right decision. Focus on what we do best.
Other questions? Well, I guess one of the questions that I would have is, what's been the main learning lesson that you've found as someone operating on the iOS platform for real money?
Well, we were lucky because we had a good relationship with Apple. That helped a lot. The hardest thing on this last app was simply basically getting the thing to fit. It was just a little crazy and all that. So anyway, I can show you this. This is the 15-second spot, I believe.
With multiple bonuses, 8 unique themes. Get lucky with free spins. You can win real money in play screens, slots, cash.
And then the thing I'd say about that is that what we learned here is that the marketing effort you need is amazing. In order to even get the user cost of acquisition. Okay, so the big thing was we're running a casino, not running a game. Cost of acquisition is key. You have to actually do a really fabulous job, or else you're not going to win. How do you go full screen?
It's a regular flip in town, but when he sees a penny, he collects it. And when he bumps into a black cat, he picks it up. But he doesn't just preserve his luck, he acts on it. You can win real money with play screens, slots, cash. 8 unique themes, multiple bonuses, and free spins. Get lucky and play today in the UK.
So yeah, we put a lot of effort into the marketing. That's the other lesson we learned, that if you can lose the business on the basis of not doing an effective marketing job. So your marketing has to be as strong as your development, has to be as strong as your back end, your relationships, and everything else. This is like there's going to be a gold rush of people doing real money games, and it will end up sort of, I think, in the same way free to play ended up, where most of the people will lose money. In the iPhone and the iOS and the Android game market, it really is a lottery. You really hear a lot of stories about people making good money. Most of those will come from your ad providers who will be happy to take your money. I used to always say in free-to-play, a simple thing to do would be to just have the VCs just write checks to the ad agencies, save a lot of money that way, cut out the middleman. So there you go. Question?
So William, I'm wondering, do you still, so the way you have it set up, are you paying anything to Apple at this point? Or
No,
are they giving an
nothing at all.
exemption, like an e-commerce kind of
Nope,
exemption?
not at all. And the reason for that is because Apple's in the business of selling iron, selling razors. They don't care about the blades. That's another distinction between Google. Apple sells hardware, and their attitude is anything that helps move the hardware is a big deal. Now, sports betting apps are big on the iPhone in the UK, as well as casino apps. There's all the major casino players, William Hill, Paddy Power, Ladbrokers, they're all on the iPhone in Europe and in UK, and I think that helps Apple maintain a dominant position. And I think Apple views that as important. That's why Apple has rules and regulations about that. Apple also, that's the way they've been. There's lots of apps that are ad-supported apps that Apple makes no money from, like that crazy Bird app that just disappeared from the App Store. That was an ad-supported app. There was no money going to Apple on that. Flappy Bird, yeah.
Questions? What about other markets, whether it be other European regulated and open markets, or the U.S. as it's opening now, places like New Jersey?
Well, right now, the other European markets we definitely want to go over. Scandinavia seems to make a lot of sense. Other Anglo markets make sense. And I've been basically meeting with lottery people for the last several months in Europe because I think the lotteries are a tremendous opportunity. Their demographic is even more aged than the casino games. In the U.S., the issue is the structure of those licenses. I believe in New Jersey, and I could be wrong, is that while you can get approved as technology and all that, and you can, the problem there is you have to be pretty much tied to a land-based casino, and once again, the land-based casinos are not in the mood to have you make a ton of money on that. They want to make a ton of money, so they're charging a fortune for licenses that reach a limited number of players. It will take some time for it to work out. Maybe the lotteries will be ahead of the casino games in the U.S., I don't know.
What was the, I guess, the main thing that changed when you went from being in a free-to-play social casino user acquisition business to a real money business from a marketing perspective? What changed?
Well, having some days where the actual cost of bringing the players in was earned back in one day was a big change. I mean, we literally busted our chops on social gaming and spent a fortune on marketing, and it was very, very hard to actually prove ROI on that. This is another thing. Volume matters in social gaming. When you're up against King or Zynga and stuff, the volume they do on acquiring players makes a difference, particularly in games that require liquidity, like poker. In the real money space, if you do very good marketing and you manage your costs effectively, it's possible to actually get to profitability sooner than you would in social gaming. The problem is that barriers to entry, even with a partner like Bettable, are high. You have to have people who actually understand real money gaming. You have to, and that's hard. You know, everyone thinks it's going to be easy. We'll just take our social game and port it over. I think Zynga came to the conclusion that that was a distraction for them, that they had to focus on their core business and they couldn't go after real money gaming the way they had told the analysts they would, because it would have been a distraction to their main core business. We decided just to basically make the pivot and focus only on real money gaming.
So we've got time for one last question. Okay, I guess I'll ask it. Can anyone guess what it is? Are you going to be accepting Bitcoin in the near future?
I have to give my Bitcoin speech. First of all, I think the minute that some gaming authority does Bitcoins and it's all legit, everyone's going to jump in on it. And right now we can't touch it because it's not legit yet. I mean, in terms of a gaming authority. Personally, having had a credit card cloned in London a week ago and saw $4,700 go out of my account, I'm really hoping that something like this takes over, because it's insane right now to do money transactions overseas. You don't use American credit cards in London. Really don't. Trust me on this. You know, get cash or use a chip card or something, because I got burned this week, big time. So.
Well, that's all the time we've got. Thank you very much for another informative discussion.
Thank you.